I think the first word that comes to mind, awesome.
To describe Jean-Louis in one word is really difficult.
Jean-Louis was open to different ideas, open to different kinds of people.
C'était, je sais pas, pour moi c'était un géant. Un géant, voilà, il était immense dans son savoir, dans sa manière. Il était unique.
Kind and generous, I think I remember him most fondly as a really warm and gracious, wonderfully engaging partner in conversation.
I think another word that is equally important is connector. Jean-Louis was not only connecting things that happened in the past in new ways so that we would understand, but he was also connecting people today who were concerned with these things.
Our first interaction, he immediately started speaking to me in Russian, which I don't speak very well at all. His emails were usually in either Italian, French, as often as in English.
Il connaissait tout, il avait une mémoire inouïe. Et puis enfin, il parlait russe, donc c'était très facile. Il parlait aussi l'allemand. Bon, je parlais aussi quelques langues, mais lui, c'était une folie. C'était vraiment impressionnant et sympathique à la fois.
I don't really know anyone else who had such an enormous output of publication of books and exhibitions. And he wrote what I think is the best textbook on 20th century architecture, the future of architecture, and did all these books on Corbusier in Russia, and of course Frank Gehry recently, and expanded at the same time the discourse by looking at the global south and looking at topics that others hadn't really studied. I'm thinking of that book on Casablanca. So he was immensely impactful for the field.
He was looking at a way of understanding the 20th century that would take in all of the complexities of the international collaborations, one that would not see the years of conflict, particularly the First and Second World War, as interruptions in architectural culture. He would see them in a very provocative way, in a very profound way. But the project that really synthesized this effort, or maybe we might say was its leading edge, was a project called Architecture in Uniform, which is both a book and an exhibition at the Canadian Centre for Architecture. Extremely important, and one that I think was the place where he finally brought into one situation something that he had been working at from different angles for many years.
Lui, il avait une connaissance inouïe qui était la connaissance des livres, mais comme il avait une formation d'architecte, il comprenait tout. C'était pas simplement un historien. Il voyait les choses, il voyait les couleurs, il voyait les choses en 3 dimensions.
And a lot of the things that I think that he was interested in was kind of extracting moments of kind of decency, which is kind of what architecture does at its best, at very difficult times. And I think that's one of the reasons he was so interested in, let's say, the late 20s and the Soviet Union. If you look at his most important texts, for example, a lot of them had to do with connections between places, connections between Americanism, for example, in the Soviet Union, with the relationship between Berlin and Moscow, or between Moscow and Paris. I think it was these cultural connections that interested him more than other people. And I think that that's one of the reasons he built these kinds of different networks. So it was this kind of this movement of ideas from one culture to another, from one person to another. It was what was so interesting about the way he viewed architecture, and I think that was very different and made him very important in terms of how he helped us understand the way cultures impact each other over time.